Up you to photographer Ronix Fred and Anatra. In this tutorial, you are going to be learning how you can easily do skin retouching in Photoshop and also color grading with no steps skipped. And if at all you'd love to follow along as you're editing and you want to get the raw files for practice, and these photos I'm giving out are taken by Encourage Studios, make sure you check him out on Instagram. He's an amazing photographer. So for this case, what I'm going to do for these images is first of all showing how you can process a raw file when it comes to doing your beauty retouching. So I'm just going to be using this very image. And before we proceed, simply like this video, because when you like the video, it also helps you to push and recommend this tutorial to many people out there. So simply like this video. So in order to open up an image into Photoshop, you can simply select the image and drag and drop it into Photoshop, and that is going to automatically open up the camera raw filter. If at all the photo you're going to edit is going to be a raw file, but if at all you can't do that, you can simply right click on the photo and just come to open with and you select Photoshop. And for my case, I'm using Photoshop 2020, and this is the image that we have. So the very first thing that you have to take into consideration is correcting the lighting and contrast issues regarding this very photo right here. So I'll come to the basic panel right here, and I'll first of all correct the exposure issues just like that, and you can see I'll just brighten up the image. I think that is okay. Then I'll slightly warm up the image up to around 5,000. Yeah, 5,200 is fine, because the reason as to why I warm up the images in this case or in this scenario is I just want to easily color grade. Remember, warm images regarding skin tones are going to be very easy for you to edit or even color grade. So I'll just come to the highlights and simply drop down the highlights just like that, and slightly drop the whites and come and open up the shadows. So after I've corrected the lighting and contrast issues regarding this photo, the next thing I'm going to do is simply coming down to my color mixer tool, because I feel like the background is a little bit contradicting with the subject and I just want the background complement the skin tones. So you can see that we have some tiny bit of blues within this backdrop, and you can look at that by just coming and moving these sliders, and you can see that we have a tiny amount of blues within the backdrop. Or you can as well click right here and just sample this area, and you can see we have some aquas. So you click and drag up or drag down to see the colors. So what I want to do, I just want to come the hues, and remember when you're moving the hue slider, you're going to be making or altering the colors in a given image. So I just come and add a tiny bit of blues towards the aquas. So I'll be making the blues look like the aquas, and I'll just come the saturation and also take the saturation of the blues slightly higher, and this is going to make the image pop somehow. So I just take it up to around 56. That is okay. So I feel like the image is somehow too bright, so I'll just come the exposure and simply drop or reduce on the exposure a little bit. I'll just take the shadow slider down slightly. So this is what we have in this case, and you can see before, after, before, after. We have now corrected the lighting and contrast issues regarding this very image. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're just going to open the image into Photoshop. So in order, or before opening the photo into Photoshop, simply come right here and you can simply click on this option down here, and you can change the bit depth of the image. So if at all you want to work with more details in your photos, make sure to change the bit depth of the image to 16-bit. So after doing that, I always make sure that I sharpen the images for screen, and I turn on this sharpen option, and the amount is set to standard, and I just hit OK. And after doing that, I'm just going to come right here to the open option right here, and I'll simply come and open the image into Photoshop. So right now we are in Photoshop, and you can see this is the image that we're going to be working with in this kind of tutorial. So in order, or before working on the photo in Photoshop, always come and make sure you crop it in a ratio that you want to post it. So I'm just going to get the crop tool and simply change the ratio from the default to 4:5, because if at all you're posting on social media, this is going to be supported by most social media platforms, and I'll hit OK to approve the crop settings. So in this case, we're just going to be learning frequency separation. And those that don't understand or know about frequency separation is a skin retouching technique that is going to divide the image into the colors and the textures. So after dividing the image into the colors and the textures, we are going to work on the textures alone and refine the textures and also refine the colors. So that when we combine both layers, we are going to end up with a nicely retouched image. So we are going to come the background layer right here and press Ctrl J twice, or you can use Command J to create those two layers and name this to low frequency. And you're going to name the up layer to high frequency right here. So after naming these two layers, so remember in the low frequency layer we have the colors and the high frequency layer is for textures. So just come and hide the high frequency layer by clicking on this visibility icon. And for the low frequency layer, we're now going to come to filter and come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. Remember, like I've said, in the low frequency layer, we only want to remain with the colors. So click right here on the skin and look for an area that contains more skin textures than the rest of the skin. So this area is going to represent the rest of the skin. So this is where you have to take or pay maximum attention regarding frequency separation, and this is where most of you tend to go wrong. So you simply left click on the radius slider and you start dragging it up. So you drag up, left click and drag and move this slider as you are releasing it, so that you can see the effect in real time. So just take it up just like that, up to a point when you're just starting to lose out on the skin textures or skin details. So at around 7, that is when I'm just starting to lose out on the skin details in this very image. Then if at all your image is having different details, your radius may be different from mine right here. So you always have to move it at a point, or you stop at a point when the textures are just starting to disappear from the image, but you can still identify where the textures were initially. Just come and click OK. Come and select the high frequency layer and now activate it. And after activating it, we're just going to come right here and now come to image and come to apply image. So when you come to apply image, just come and select the low frequency layer under the layer option. And for a 16-bit image that we are working with in this case, use a blend mode of add. The scale has to be 2, so type in 2 and offset 0. Opacity has to be 100%. Make sure preserve transparency and mask are not checked, and turn on the invert option. And when you do these steps right, you can see that the textures are on this gray kind of layer. Then if at all you're working with an 8-bit image, just come and use a blend mode of subtract and make sure the scale is 2 and the offset is set to 128. So just type in those values. Then the opacity has to be 100%, preserve transparency and mask are not checked, and make sure the invert option is not turned on. These settings that I've just said right now are for an 8-bit image. So I'll just change mine to the 16-bit settings and hit OK. So right now we have an issue. You can notice that the textures are on the gray layer, which is lacking colors. So we just want to bring back the information regarding colors by coming to the blend mode and changing it from normal to linear light, and you can see that we have back, or we have gotten back the image that it was meant to be initially. So we're going to put these two in a group by left clicking and pressing Command or Control, and pressing Ctrl G, or you can use Command G on the keyboard to group these layers. And you can see there is no difference. If at all we hide this, there is no difference between the initial image and what we have in this case. So what we want to do, you can see that we have the textures alone, and if at all we hide this, we have the colors alone. So when you combine both the colors and textures, we end up with the image that we started with at the start of this very tutorial. So after we have done that, the next thing is going to be, we are going to be retouching this very image. So in order to retouch, like I said at the start of the tutorial, we are going to be working with the colors alone and perfecting the colors. Then we're also going to be working with the textures and perfecting the textures of this very image or this very photo. Apologies for the noise in the background. So I'm just going to come right here and I'm just going to hide the texture layer or the high frequency layer, because for this step we are going to select the color layer, and after selecting it, just come under the brushes. You simply right click on the brushes and select the mixer brush tool. And if at all your mixer brush tool is not showing under the brushes, you can come and select it or find it right below here. So for whichever tool that you select within Photoshop, the settings are always going to display right above here. So these are the settings for the tool that you have just chosen or selected. So just come and make sure the hardness is set to 0% and soft round brush is selected. Then after doing that, make sure that clean brush is selected, because as we are working on the skin tones or skin color, we don't want the brush to carry color from one area to another, because the skin tones are different or varying depending on how the light was falling on to the model's skin. Make sure you select the option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke right here. Make sure that this is selected. So for settings, you can experiment and use the ones that you are well conversant with. But for this tutorial, we are going to be using the settings of weight of 9%, load 75, mix 90%, and the flow of 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not turned on, because when you turn this on and you paint and you have accidentally left this on and you try painting on the model's skin, you can notice that it creates this texture, it paints back textures in this selected layer. So don't do that mistake. So make sure you turn this off and also hide the texture or high frequency layer. So how to use and apply the mixer brush tool? You can now zoom in slightly. Don't zoom all the way in. Make sure you zoom in slightly. And how to use and apply the mixer brush tool? Make sure the size of the brush is slightly smaller. And how to apply it? If at all the mixer brush tool is showing a plus icon, simply press the caps lock key on the keyboard. So how to apply it? Make sure that you move the strokes of the mixer brush tool depending on the direction of a given area, and you make sure the size of the brush is going to remain within the areas you're working on. So basically, you left click and hold down and you mix those colors just like that. Hope you can see what we are having. Come to the forehead area and mix those colors. And while these colors are transitioning from one color to another, just reduce on the size by using the bracket key on the keyboard and reduce on the size. So the bracket keys are going to increase or decrease on the size of the mixer brush tool. So when it comes to this, always make sure the strokes of the brush are taken depending on how a given area is shaped on a model's face. So mix, so come, so you mix a given color just like that, and when you come into another color, you release the left click button and simply left click once again on a new color and mix. So you hold down to mix just like that and move it in the direction of how a given area is shaped in that case. So I'm just going to mix like that. Come right here and mix, and you have to follow the shape of the model's face so that you can maintain the original shape of the model's face, and you don't want to distort her facial features or structures. So increase on the size slightly and work on another area. So we are just trying to blend and make sure that we are getting a harmonized kind of color regarding the skin tone of the model. And as you're seeing, I'm not using a very big brush, I'm using a small brush just like that, and this is going to get you quicker or faster results regarding your retouching process. So I'm just going to be mixing just like that. So continue working and working, and the longer you spend, so you may be wondering why my photo is showing or looking a little bit plastic. The reason for it looking like this and is lacking textures is simply because we have hidden or turned off the texture layer, and when you turn it on, you can see that we still have the textures left intact in this very image. That's the before after. So just hide this and continue working or painting using our mixer brush tool. So you can see that this is going to get you nicer results. Reduce on the size. When you're working on the nose, you have to use a relatively smaller brush that can mix those colors better without destroying the original shape of the model's nose. So I'm just going to be working just like that. So like I said, take your time as you're trying to edit and fine tune the skin tone transitions of your subject. I think this looks great and it looks okay. And we are now done using the Mr. Brush tool. So just turn this on and you can see the before, after, before, after. So if at all you love to continue using the Mr. Brush tool, you can as well continue working on the skin. But right now we have nice results. So this is the before, after, and it looks natural, and I've just blended the skin tone transitions. So after using the Mr. Brush tool, I prefer to use the lasso tool technique. So just come and select the lasso tool right here and make sure it is new selection mode with a feathering of 22 pixels. Make sure anti-alias is selected right here. The reason for selecting such pixel amounts that are slightly high is because as you are selecting on the skin, you can see, if at all I press Q, you can see how smooth the edge is. We don't want it to be sharp, that is why we put the feathering of 22 pixels. So I'll press Q once again to hide that mask. So just want to fine tune the areas we may have missed out when we are using the mixer brush tool. So I'll just come right here and come and make a shape or draw a shape like that. And these shapes also have to follow how the subject's face is shaped. So after drawing that shape, you're going to come to filter and come back to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So like I said, come to filter, blur, and come to Gaussian blur. So when you select Gaussian blur, it is going to bring back the previous Gaussian blur radius that we had for our image, and simply come left click and drag it up as you're looking at this selected area up to a point when you feel like you're having a natural and realistic skin texture. So a trick you can use for this step, if at all you're not sure about this, just multiply the radius that you had for your original frequency separation by 3. So 7 multiply 7 by 3, and if at all you have 5, you'll multiply your radius 5 by 3. So I'll just type in the value, which is 21, and hit OK, and I'm just going to be applying this onto the rest of the face. The reason for using this step is because we want to fine tune the areas that we may have missed out when we are trying to use the mixer brush tool to perfect the skin. Hit OK, and if at all it is too much, right click on the selection and you can reduce on the effect of the opacity or the effect of the Gaussian blur in a given area. So that is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the skin, and you can see the image is turning out to look nice and look better. So just draw those shapes like that, come back to filter and come to blur and come down to Gaussian blur, hit OK. And when it comes to the forehead area, keep away from selecting the eyebrows, and you can see I'm drawing tiny shapes, and these are going to make you have better results. Hit OK. And when it comes to the nose area, you can see I'm going to apply it on the darkest point of the nose, just like that. I'm not selecting the whole nose, because when you select the whole nose, it's going to make the nose look big and flat, so which we don't want. So just apply it on only the darkest points of the nose and leave it at that. So don't apply it on the brightest points, because when you get rid of the brightest points of the nose, it's going to make the nose look flat, which we don't want. So after we have used this, the next thing is going to be removing the pimples or blemishes from the model's skin. So this is what we have the before after, so far before after. But right now, if at all we zoom into the image, you can see that we have blemishes or skin imperfections in the image, or the pimples. So pimples are part of skin texture. So just come and select the high frequency layer right here and come and get the clone stamp tool. Make sure that the hardness is set to 0%. Make sure the blend mode is set to normal, opacity at 100%, and the flow of 100%. Make sure aligned, and make sure sample is set to current layer, because when you leave it to maybe all layers or current and blur, and you try removing, for example, this pimple, it's going to paint color back into the high frequency, because you have commanded the clone sample to copy or sample information from all the layers, which we don't want. So make sure sample is set to current layer. And how to use a clone stamp tool You use the bracket keys to increase or decrease on the size of the clone stamp tool. And how to use it: simply hold down the option key or the alternate key on the keyboard. So hold option key for Mac, then for Windows it is the alternate key, and left click on an area near the blemish. Make sure it is slightly, or the size of the clone stamp tool is slightly bigger than the blemish. So you hold down and left click, hold down the alternate or the option key, left click to copy clean skin, and release the alternate key and the left click button and left click over the blemish to replace it with clean skin. Hope that has been very simple, nice and clear. And I'm just going to be going through the blemish removal and remove all these tiny blemishes. And always take your time with this first step, because people have a zoom syndrome that enables them to zoom and look for imperfections in your beauty photos or beauty images. So take your time. I'll just come and perfect this area just like that. And I think that is okay. Don't mind if at all we leave out some areas. I'll show you how you can perfect that later on. Get rid of this smile line. Come to the other side of the face and also remove these imperfections or skin imperfections just like that. And like I said, for beauty images, you always have to take your time while cleaning up or clearing or removing these blemishes. So I'll just come this other side, hold down the option key, and I'll simply continue removing these blemishes. And you can see it is very nice and easy. And I hope the video is helpful, and simply like the video if at all you are watching and you haven't liked this video yet, or you haven't hit the like button. So I think this is okay. So you always have to zoom in and out by using Control, or you can use Command plus on the keyboard to zoom out and look for the areas that you may not have worked on. So right now we are done working on the skin area, and we have now perfected the process. So I'll just get rid of this line just like that. I'll zoom out and show you the before and after for this very image so far. This is the image before after. So anything is going to be creating uniform skin tones for this model. Just come and select the gradient map tool, and after doing that, we're just going to come and select the gradient icon, hide the gradient layer, and single click on the color option displayed right there, and that is going to open up the gradient editor. Single click on the darkest point or the left hand pointer right there, then single click on the color option to open up the color picker tool, and make sure the sample is set to 5x5 average and the sample is set to all layers. Then you are going to sample the darkest point of the skin of the model. So we are now just going to zoom in and look for the darkest point of the model skin. So we're just going to sample right here from the ear. Hold on, or you can just click once again. Just click once to sample the darkest point of the skin. I think let's use that as the darkest point. Hit OK. Click once again on the right hand pointer. Left click on the color point and look for the brightest point of the skin. That is going to be the brightest point. Click in the middle, type the location, or type in 50 in the location. Click on the color option and look for the midtones, or a color that is going to represent the midtones of the model's skin. So I'll just choose this color is okay. Hit OK. Now hit OK. So just come and turn this back on. Change the blend mode from normal and change it all the way down to color, and you can see it is affecting the overall image. So just want it to only affect the skin. Select the white layer mask right here and press Ctrl I to invert the effect, or you can use Command I to invert the effect. So just come under the brushes and get the brush tool. Make sure the hardness is set to 0 and soft round brush is selected. The mode has to be normal, opacity in the flat 100%, and make sure that you have black and white on these two color swatches. Or you can press D on the keyboard if at all you have any other random colors displaying right on these two color swatches. So make sure white is the foreground color. You can use this arrow key to place white on top. So just want to review the color grading, and you can use the bracket keys to increase on the size of the brush. So just paint on only a skin, just like that. So basically you are only painting on the skin of the model to create that kind of uniform skin tone or skin color, just like that. So if I told you paint extras, I'll be showing you how you can easily correct that. So I'm just painting there, right there. And now we have painted on the skin. And if at all you have painted extras, switch the brush back to black and can just come and use a black brush to correct and erase the effect, for example, from the eyes, and also reveal the original makeup color or the eyeshadow, just like that. So if at all the effect is too much, you can just come the opacity right here and reduce the opacity to your liking. So I'll just go with around 48. So this is the before after, before after. So I'll just take it slightly higher to 56. So we are now done color grading or creating a uniform skin tone color, or we have created a uniform skin color for our subject right here. So anything is going to be the other color grading by simply coming the adjustments and simply selecting hue and saturation. Come to the mask and select the red channel and take the lightness down, just like that, to around, I prefer 15 looks great. Then I also going to come to the black and white adjustment layer, change the blend mode to multiply right there, and come and reduce the opacity, just like that. And the next thing is going to be coming and creating a color balance right here. And I'll just come to my midtones and I'll simply cool down the midtones slightly to around, you can see 3 is okay. Then I'll come to my shadows right here and I'll also cool down the shadows a little bit and come to the cyans, just like that. I think 6 is okay, -6 is fine. Let's go with -5. So this is what the color balance has contributed. And if at all the color balance is too much, you can just come to the color balance layer and reduce on the opacity. So after doing this, the next thing is going to be doing the eye whitening. So we're going to come and create a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and make sure you have selected master. Simply come to saturation and take down the saturation until the image, or until when you feel like the eyes are white enough to your liking. -78 is fine. Then with the white layer mask selected, press Ctrl I on the keyboard, and with the brush tool still selected, make sure you have white as the foreground color. Zoom into the image by using Ctrl plus on the keyboard and reduce on the size of the brush, and just paint on only and only the white area. So don't paint on this side because that area is not usually white. It usually has those magentas or the reds. So you can see what we have right now, and you can see how beautiful the image has turned out to be or to look. So let's see the overall before and after for this very image. So I'm just going to hold down the option key on the keyboard. You can see before, after, before, after, before, after. You can see how nice the image has turned out to be or to look. So after doing the editing, the next thing is going to be saving the image so it doesn't change in color when you post it on social media. So we're just going to come right out to File, Export, and come to Export As right here. So with the Export As panel opened within your Photoshop, select the format to JPEG, drop down, quality at 100%. Make sure the resample is set to by Cubic Sharper, Then also make sure you have set it to convert sRGB, and also check the option that says embed color profile. And after doing that, you can now come and hit export to export the image to whichever location that you choose. And after doing that, you can now hit save, and the image is going to be saved, and this window is going to automatically close when the image is done saving. So this is it for this video. And if at all you have enjoyed this, simply like this video. Don't forget to subscribe if at all you have been watching and you're not subscribed yet to this channel, Ronix from Photography. Thanks for watching, and see you in yet more videos on this channel. Don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.